Do you tend to be the problem in your relationships? That's a tough question to ask yourself because we tend to always blame the other person. Couldn't possibly be us. Thank you so much for joining us again on Second Act TV. Once again, I want to welcome back Joni Caldwell Lerner, the motivational coach and relationship expert, and the author of Stop, Look, Choose. Is that right?
Yes. I love you. Your journey to
Your
peace and
journey
freedom.
to peace and freedom. We're laughing here because for some reason I had trouble with that title, and Joni just came out with a fabulous coaching book that we want you to pick up. So Joni, thank you again for being here today.
Oh, my pleasure as always.
Well, we have a good topic today, an important topic. Do you tend to be the problem in your relationships? That's a tough question to ask yourself because we tend to always blame the other person. Couldn't possibly be us. So that's a conversation we want to have today is, am I the problem?
The good news is if you answer yes, then you can change it. Because the only person that you can change is yourself and how you respond to or receive information from the relationship, from outside sources. And this is where the book title came from. If a person stops, looks at their life, and then chooses the best path, they're going to get a different result in their life. So absolutely, we often point at the other person.
Yeah, and this, this segment isn't about shaming anyone. But it's
No.
about being honest when we bring these points up. And I'm pointing at me when I say that because as I read these points and it says, be honest with yourself, I was, and I'm like, you know what? I might be the problem in a few areas.
You can change it. That's exciting.
Yeah. So let's go here. The first one here,
Uh,
codependency.
uh,
Have you created a codependent situation, where you put your partner's needs first, but you're actually resentful about it?
so codependency, or let's just call it enmeshment, the person tends to not have a real handle on self-care. They oftentimes don't even understand their own feelings. They wait, do you like blue? I don't know. Do I like blue? I mean, and it comes usually from coping mechanisms from childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they come by it innocently. But
Mm-hmm.
codependency robs the person of their autonomy. A person needs to look at what they need first
Mm-hmm.
and then incorporate the relationship, their person into their life, and then
Mm-hmm.
care about what they're happy, what makes them happy as well. That's
Mm-hmm.
different.
Yeah.
That's a healthy balance. That's why they say put the oxygen mask on yourself first on an airplane.
Yeah, good
Right?
example. Well, and I think to recognize this and to be honest with yourself, do you do this? And I think the key here is, which was to me anyway, is are you resentful about it? Do you resent this, or do you lovingly, willingly do everything for your partner? I think the resentment is key there.
Yes, it is. It is. And what it'll come out as passive aggressive. So they're like,
Yeah.
give, love, give, and then they start to get resentful. Now they're keeping all the stuff inside and then they explode.
Yeah, well, that's
That's
the next sign, passive
oh,
aggressive behavior.
oh, there you go.
See, you're so
We
good
learn.
at this, Joni. You know all this stuff. But yeah, passive aggressive behavior, sarcasm.
Mm,
Again, be honest with yourself.
mhm.
Do you state your problems? Hey, this is I have an issue here I want to discuss, or are you snippy about it? Do you expect your partner to read your mind?
Mhm.
That and I have to admit, I'm really good at the sarcastic, passive aggressive stuff.
Yeah. Listen, if sarcasm is funny, that can be amusing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not completely against sarcasm, but I
Mm-hmm.
do know that I used to use sarcasm bitingly. So
Yeah.
instead of speaking my truth, I
Mm-hmm.
would inject a passive aggressive truth with the sarcasm. And it was
Mm-hmm.
mean. It was hurtful to other people. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could see the look on their face and then I'd immediately feel contrite. And so I've changed that. I think I'm a very funny person,
You are a very
but
funny person.
you and I think so. Two people. But I don't use sarcasm the way I once did. And that has changed my life. It has
Mhm,
changed my life. It has changed my relationships. So
mhm,
when you're talking about, am I the problem? I look at my marriage and I was half the problem for sure.
mhm, mhm.
For sure.
And they say here too that and that's an important sign, is like withholding affection, withholding sex, and the silent treatment. Those are huge signs of passive aggressive behavior. And again, well, not the sex part, but the silent treatment. Oh boy, yeah, I recognize that in myself a lot. And that's why I think these talks are so important, that
Mm-hmm.
we do realize. I mean, again, you have to be honest. I said at the top of the show, as we go through this, be honest. Do you see this in yourself? You don't have to tell anybody. I'm admitting to some of it. You don't have to. But if
Yeah.
you can recognize this and you can correct it and maybe stop being the problem. Here's another one that really resonated with me: insecure attachment style.
Mm.
And I've mentioned that on the show again. Are you constantly looking for signs of rejection? And again, if I'm totally honest, that drives, yes, that has something that I've had my whole life. I'm not necessarily talking about my life right now, but this
Mm-hmm.
is something I've struggled with for years and years
Mm-hmm.
and years. And having it put like this,
Mm-hmm.
that when does love go away? It is huge about clinginess and neediness when you actually then start to drive people away.
So insecure or anxious attachment is what you just described. Then
Mm-hmm.
there's avoidant attachment. And usually the insecure will attract the avoidant, which is
Mm-hmm.
fascinating because the
Yeah.
insecure needs that constant reassurance, and the avoidant is constantly running the other direction. And sometimes they can be both, which is
Mm-hmm.
disordered. So what we
Mm-hmm.
want is secure attachment. And just because we sort of operate more in one than another doesn't mean that we can't become securely attached. So you can say to your partner, I'm doing that thing again
Mm-hmm.
where I just need you to tell me I'm wonderful and and text me every day. Could we do that for like a week? Yeah, actually, what you're doing is calling yourself out, you're shining a light on it, and you're healing it with words. But if you live in the dark, if you live in the closet with this, then it just is exacerbated.
Yeah.
So
To me, honestly, the awareness of it was a
huge.
gift, was huge. Just knowing that, oh my God, this makes so much sense. And
Mm-hmm.
even if I never take any action on it just by understanding it, that, stop it. That was huge, and that's why I wanted to make sure that we included that in today's discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And then, well, communication issues, we've talked about that. Pardon the pun, ad nauseum, but specifically, how do you talk, not necessarily even communicate, but how do you talk with your partner? Is your tone belittling, sarcastic again? Do you interrupt your partner? I mean, do you have sweeping statements like, you never do anything here, blah 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 blah? Do you have that sort of aggressive, really,
Mm-hmm.
style when you talk with your partner? Be honest.
And when I look at a person like that, I think, oh, honey, 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 I'm so sorry. I'm
Mm-hmm.
so sorry. Because that comes out of pain. That behavior comes out of pain. And what it does is it separates them, it keeps other human beings away from them. And they
Mm-hmm.
think they're right. They think that their behavior is actually protecting them or is correct.
Mm-hmm.
And they cannot change it unless they acknowledge it.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot change what you do not acknowledge.
I can honestly acknowledge that that is not one of my problems. What is, though, and
Okay.
again, it just hits you in the head, is the next one here: always looking for arguments and conflict. Now, I'll take the always out of there. There is something about looking, for arguments or conflict, for the attention, or for some weird sort of engagement. I can't explain it, but when I read this, it resonated with me.
Mm-hmm. So there's healthy conflict. Healthy conflict is one thing. Conflict for the sake of conflict is not as productive. We'll put it that
Right.
way. So healthy conflict means, hey, listen, I don't really like what's happening here between us. And so I want to have a conversation about it. That's conflict. Okay. You're a jerk and, an a-hole. And, I think you should change. That's conflict
Mhm.
too, but it's
Mhm.
a different kind of conflict. That's
Mhm.
an unaccountable blaming conflict. So if there's conflict with accountability, conflict in kindness and love can elevate a relationship.
Yeah, I'll make another admission here because I wonder if other people have done this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not like I'm not a conflict avoidant person by any means,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes I don't like to, or I don't want to argue about or discuss the actual problem because that has too many consequences. So when I say that this resonated with me, that you're looking
Yes.
for that, sometimes we can argue about something else that is irrelevant to what's actually going on. And boy, how unhealthy is
Okay.
that?
So that's conflict 101. PhD conflict is where you say to him, I'm picking a fight right now because I
Mm-hmm.
really don't want to discuss what's true.
Right,
That's
exactly.
that's the PhD right there. That's where you're truly in the moment. You have that awakening or that conscious thought, and you're willing to have the conversation. If a relationship is meant to be ended, then it's meant to be ended
Mm-hmm.
for your highest good and the highest
Mm-hmm.
good of all. If
Mm-hmm.
it's meant to go to make it through that conflict and go to the next level,
Mm-hmm.
then that takes courage, right? So courage is fear, but doing it anyway, having the
Mm-hmm.
fear and doing it anyway. That's the courage.
Yeah, it took me forever, forever, forever. So again, it's something I recognize, and I hope, and I can't wait to hear from my viewers on this because this raised so many issues, so many things that came up for me. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's really it's important. It's important to look
Yeah,
at this.
absolutely.
Here's another one: distrust and jealousy. Do you distrust your partner? Are you very jealous? And if so, why?
Mm-hmm.
Is he or she giving you reason? Or
Mm-hmm.
you just are.
Yeah. Sometimes what it is it's old information stored
Mm-hmm.
in your body called
Yep.
somatic
Mm-hmm.
energy. And so your current partner may happen to glance over at a person and
Mm-hmm.
suddenly you've been triggered because your ex-husband was unfaithful
Mm-hmm.
or whatever it is, your dad, cheated on your mom, whatever it is. And you have a visceral reaction. It has nothing to
Right.
do with your current man. This actually happened to me recently, okay, where I had a really jealous reaction and I was
Mm-hmm.
dumbfounded because John couldn't be more faithful.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that about him. And he had
Mm-hmm.
no interest in this woman, but this monster came flying out of my, and I'm like, okay, calm down. Don't say anything. Don't say, work it through. It's all on you.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew it was my stuff, but I still couldn't. So I waited and I waited and I waited and we were all alone. And I said, I got to tell you, blah, blah, blah. He goes, what? I mean,
Yeah.
which was a
Yeah.
great reaction. The point is, I had that emotion. Same day, I handled it, shine the light on it, and it didn't make me look good.
Mm-hmm.
But then we moved on. He's very elegant in terms
Mm-hmm.
of relationship and communication. So he was like, wow, I'm really glad you said
Mm-hmm.
something. And
Mm-hmm.
thank you.
Well, and I'm glad. Thank you for admitting to it. I would never thought that that would be you'd feel that. I never in a million years. So
Yeah,
thank you. I
me
think.
neither. but but it was
Yeah.
humbling. It was truly humbling. And I had to
Yeah.
look at, or I chose to look at
Mm-hmm.
so that I could
Yeah.
clear that.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, and hopefully, like I said, as we're talking about this, other people, will do so as well.
Here's another piece, my dear, is with jealousy, sometimes a partner will accuse the other of something they've been thinking or have done.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're accusing the person of sleeping around or whatever, it's possible that's what that person is doing. So this is a whole nother dynamic. That's not you, that's not me, but it does exist. So I needed to shine a light on that. Usually and almost always, jealousy, envy, it's about insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
So something to
Yeah.
be dealt with.
Yeah. And then it can be about unfaithfulness, which is another one here,
Yeah,
cheating and
well, if it's
unfaithfulness. Yeah. It's like,
shine a spotlight on that.
this is, again, argue the problem. Well, do you cheat? Are you unfaithful? Do you talk badly about your partner? Again, this is a tough one to be honest about to yourself, because obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously, but a lot of times if you are, you have all kinds of excuses as to why. But
Yeah.
that's a tough one to look at.
So let's look at this without morality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Without judgment whatsoever. If you want to have more than one partner, fine, be honest about it and go off and do that. But if you're looking to get out of the relationship, and how you're going to do that is to blow it up by being unfaithful, look at
Mm-hmm.
that. Have the
Mm-hmm.
courage to go to the person and say, listen, I'm done, and then go off and have fun or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But,
exactly.
cheaters never prosper.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's good that we're talking about this, because jealousy is horrible to have in a relationship. It's a horrible emotion. It's another thing. I've talked about that so many times, because I had a husband who, cheated on me for 25 years. So it's something I struggle
Wow.
with for a long, long time. However, just
Mm-hmm.
because it's a bad emotion and you look at it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So it's a double-edged sword, and it's important that we know exactly what our part in that is, because the relationship isn't going to survive it.
Eventually it will blow up. And for the
Yeah.
person who's cheated on for 25 years,
Mm-hmm.
I imagine that it's like, am I not enough?
Oh,
What's lacking in
yeah,
me?
that's a whole other segment. Whole other segment.
I,
Yeah, yeah. It's
yeah.
yeah. Well, and then here's the other one. Then after this, let's close. We
Mm-hmm.
can talk about this forever. But playing mind games. I mean, the mind games can be as simple as saying, that you're fine when you're really not. I mean, that's a part of passive aggressive behavior, or expecting your partner to read your mind, again playing mind games, or dismissing their feelings. I mean, this is when it gets bad, when it goes into the gaslighting
Right.
stuff, where somebody just doesn't acknowledge what you're actually feeling, especially if you're feeling jealous because you think they're cheating.
Right.
Oh, you're
Right.
just
And they're
crazy.
cheating. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just so insecure. So as you were talking about mind games, I immediately went to the gaslighting piece. I immediately went to the power and manipulation,
Yeah.
right? The power and control.
Mm-hmm.
That's what mind games are about. You did bring up something very interesting. Also, a mind game would be, I'm fine. That feels passive or eventually passive aggressive.
Mm-hmm. God bless Paul, because he doesn't go down that road.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, well, I'm fine. It's fine. And
Mm-hmm.
he knows I'm not, but it's okay. Walk
Yeah.
off. Like, well, but I'm
Yeah.
like, Suka, you know all this. Why are you doing that? Great conversation. I can't wait to hear the comments on this. I'm sure that there must be triggers from what we said. I had one on almost every single point. There are a couple more. I'll link to the article. And the good news is that's in your control. You can
Yes.
actually change that, and you can buy Joni's book, which will take you through all those steps. Right there.
Yeah, right there, right
Stop,
there.
look, choose.
Choose.
So all the links are below. Be sure to check them out. I will also link to your podcast, Wake Up with Joni, and of course your coaching page. So you can get in touch with Joni directly. And Joni, I can't wait to have you back again soon on Second Act TV.